everyone, it's Renee with Delaney Cards. Welcome back to the Joy Clair Designs channel. Today I have a project for you featuring the Big Hugs digital stamp set by Joy Clair Designs. And one thing I really like about digital stamps is that you can manipulate them. The dog image is a big dog image, just like the one that I'm coloring now. And I was able to shrink it down and mirror it. I use software called Silhouette Studio. You don't have to have a Silhouette to use it. It's very user-friendly. I am not very good at technology, and I figured it out with a little help of my friend Marie, who gave me a little bit of confidence to give it a try. But I have kind of poked in all of the tabs and places and have figured out many things on there that she did not help me with, but she gave me the confidence to do it. Anyway, when you stamp with traditional stamps and you try to get a mirrored image, you can stamp on a piece of acetate and then flip that over and put it on a piece of paper, or stamp on a piece of rubber. They even have like stamps made for that where you stamp onto it and it's just a piece of acrylic, or like for acrylic stamps. Are they called acrylic stamps? Or rubber stamps. It's just like a sheet and you stamp on there and then you can transfer that to your paper. And it works, but usually you don't get the crispest of images. And if you smear it or smudge it, or, don't apply very firm, even direct pressure, you can get kind of a smushed image. With digital images, that's not ever a problem. You manipulate it on your screen and you send it through your printer and it prints out. There is no worry that the lines are going to be smushed or smeared, that you're going to misstamp. So I do really like that about digital images. I also like that I can print them any size I want. I've said before in a previous video that I printed out a 4 by 4 foot dragon. I also printed him small enough to use him on a card. You can find that video on my personal channel. But you can do all sorts of very cool things with digital images. This is just the one that I wanted to show you today. I also manipulated the sentiment that goes on, that is kind of grounding my images here. It says the only difference between Dad and me is a couple of big feet. And I stretched that to actually kind of be the ground that these two dogs are standing on. And then I manipulated, again, the paw prints. One size set is smaller than the other, and I just put them in next to the sentiment there. Dad's paw prints and son's paw prints. The coloring that I'm doing is very easy. I left it in just because otherwise this video would have been like 2 minutes long. And I like watching coloring, so I like to leave it in on my videos. I didn't show all of it. Here I'm just coloring the dad dog. I don't show the coloring of the kid dog, the puppy. It's a puppy, right? Not a kid dog. But I colored him exactly the same way, and I just used these warm grays here, just variations, darker and lighter. You can see I put darker spots on him, and his head is a little bit darker than his body, and I'm just going to make him look like a dark gray dog because I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. I wanted to do kind of a bold background, so I wanted to make sure that these two images were going to really stand out when I put the card all the way together. So like I said, I'm just using varying grays to color him in completely. There is no other, I didn't pull in anything else, just grays to color his body. I was trying to decide what part of him was the tongue, and I figured it out. So then I just colored his underbelly there. Put some pink. This is RV42. I don't show it what it is, but that's what that is. And then R24. I like those together. RV42 and R24. They blend really nicely together, and I use them a lot for that kind of stuff. Then I used a darker gray for the nose, and a really bright blue for the collar. I wanted something that was just going to jump off there. And then I did pull out an old gold gel pen and gave their collars, the tags and their collars, a little bit of gold. And then although I did print this, I did bring out my glazed pen for the nose and the eyes just because it adds a little bit of shiny raised dimension. And you can do that to digital images. You can basically do anything you can do with a stamped image, you can do with a digital image. It just depends on what kind of printer you're using. This is printed on a Canon laser printer that only prints black, so it was actually very inexpensive when I purchased it. I love the printer. I think I can feed it from the back for heavier like watercolor paper. I haven't tried that because it's pretty big, and where it's mounted in my craft room is pretty high, so I probably couldn't maneuver it on my own. I'll have to ask my husband if I can feed stuff from the back and have him position it so that if that's the case, then I can do that. So here is just touching up the coloring, making sure that everything was bold. And now I'm going to make that background. I didn't mask him. I could have just run some masking paper through my printer and printed some masks, and that would have been fine. Or even just on printer paper and then used like a Tombow Mono multi-glue to make them sticky to make masks, but I didn't. I figured I could kind of be careful enough with this stencil, and I just used some candied apple here to stencil in this pattern. I kind of tried to keep it lighter around the image so it stood out well, and then I shifted it. I put it right in the spot and I shifted it over and shifted it up, and now I am going to stencil over this with Salty Ocean, and like I said, darker around the edges and then lighter as I get into the center. I kind of wanted a halo kind of glow around the dogs, and I thought that would be fine, and it helped me from having to mask them. Not that it would have been difficult, but I didn't want to. I'm lazy sometimes. Well, no, I'm lazy all the time. So there is my background, and I thought it turned out pretty cool, and then I trimmed it down. I'm going to kind of do a different for me layout. So I mounted it on this blue cardstock, and when I use cardstock, like colored cardstock, to mount my stuff on, usually it's very inexpensive from my local chain store. Nothing fancy. I mean, I do have some really good quality colored cardstock in my craft room, but I don't always reach for that when I'm just layering stuff. I mean, I do, but not always. So here you can see the way that I mounted this. There's a larger red gap at the bottom where I'm going to add the word Dad. I did die cut that from a die cut from, I don't even know from where. And I ink blended over one of them with that broken china, and then I made a puddle of glue on my glass mat. Just kind of dipped it in because these are really delicate. Kind of dipped it in there and then just got glue on it and was able to stack them. I don't show the whole thing, but that one that I ink blended is the one that I will stack on top after I have all of these stacked together. It just kind of makes it a little bit more sturdy, and the ink blending adds a little bit of interest, especially because I used that Salty Ocean for the background. I did finish the inside of the card. I'm not sure if I showed it in the video or not, or even in the pictures, but I just used the stencil. I've been doing that a lot, where I just use a stencil and kind of put a little stencil pattern on the inside. So here I'm just mounting this to the card base, and you can see that I have a little white border even around the red. And now I'm just going to add the word Dad there to the bottom, and that's going to finish up my card. It's very simple. It didn't take very long at all. I believe I had like 34 minutes of footage total to make this card, and that includes switching markers and pulling things out and all the things that I just cut out of the video. It really wasn't all that much to make this card, so like 34 minutes, and that also included like cleaning up as well. So I hope that you enjoyed my card. I definitely think that digital images have their place in the craft room, and one of which is because you can do this very cool technique. I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments, and as I always say, give cards generously. Bye!